Welcome Home, a podcast for veterans about veterans by veterans, is a project of Willing Warriors and the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run.
Good morning. I'm your host, Larry Ziliaks, Director of Culinary Services here at the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run. And this week, our guest is Kayla LaFond, and she is the military spouse liaison for the Virginia Department of Veterans Services. And I recently had the opportunity to sit in on a webinar she did on resources for the spouses of active duty military stationed here in the Commonwealth. And it was very interesting. It was a lot more resources than I thought. So I asked her to join me so we could talk a little bit about the different programs that the Department of Veterans Services has. But first, I want to start, Kayla. You are the spouse of an active duty service member. Is that right?
Yes, we are a Navy family down here in the Hampton Roads region.
Wow. And were you married prior to your husband joining the Navy?
We were engaged.
Okay. And how long ago was that?
He has been in 12 years.
Wow. Okay.
So we've been together. We've been married for at least 11 of those.
Talk a little bit about what it was like to become a military spouse. And I don't think people realize how much of a change that is for the spouse of an active duty service member. You go from essentially being a civilian into this whole other world that has all its own crazy rules, and the words are different for everything. And so what was that? What was that like for you?
Yeah, so my husband and I met in college, so we're college sweethearts, and we both played lacrosse at our tiny little private school in Indiana. And I think where I kind of thought we were going would be potentially like coaching lacrosse in different areas. I was a Haitian major, and my husband ended up getting his undergrad in criminal justice and then his master's in public administration from our college. And I think we definitely had that path of we are going to coach lacrosse. Like that's what we were going to do. We're already engaged, and he decided that he wanted to go in the Navy. And at that point I was like, where has that been the past 5 years? Like, what is my life going to look like? By the time we got married, I was an assistant lacrosse coach at a D3 school in Ohio, and then eventually moved to our first duty station, which was Norfolk. Tried to get that job in teaching, but my teaching license from Indiana did not correlate to Virginia. And so that would have been 2018, before all this licensure reciprocity kind of stuff was really in full force than what it is today. In Indiana, I would have been able to teach middle school to high school science. High school would be specifically only chemistry. And so when I moved here, they were like, you can only teach chemistry. You can't even teach middle school. So my jobs are pretty limited. I went the substitute teacher route to try to get in with the schools. I was coaching lacrosse for some high school girls. By the time we were up for orders again, after going through our first deployment, I literally said, let's just go wherever. I don't have any specific ties to here. I don't have a full-time job. Like, now's the time to go. And so we actually left Virginia for San Diego. And by that point, I just let my teaching license expire. I was unemployed, definitely underemployed, took temporary jobs, either coaching. I worked at Michael's craft store for a little bit just so I could pay my student loans every month. This was obviously way before kids. So kind of felt a little lost in San Diego. It was a tough time. My husband, within the first month of us being there, he flew and joined his ship, which was at the time deployed in Japan. I think we didn't have any family around. Joining a ship while they're already deployed, you don't get to meet anyone from the ship. You're just kind of thrown into it. And so it was just really hard when they had that return and reunion briefing, I flat out went up to the instructor who was from Fleet and Family Support Center. And I was just like, I have a degree. I need a job. And he's like, it's probably your resume. And so I made that appointment with their team out of Naval Station Norfolk. And basically, they told me in a really nice way that my resume was garbage.
Mm.
And they actually said, you would be perfect here to teach with Fleet and Family Support Center. But we don't have any jobs right now, but what if you volunteer? And so I volunteered, was working those part-time jobs at the same time. And then a job opened up and I was able to start working with Fleet and Family Support Center, and I was teaching the retiree TAP classes on a submarine base out there. I think by the time our tour was ending in San Diego, I was like, get me back to Virginia. I can transfer my job. Like, Virginia feels more like home for us. And so transferred my job and he came back to Virginia. And I worked at Fleet and Family for a little bit before this job popped up. It's definitely been a roller coaster.
Yeah. Well, and I think that your story is pretty typical, actually.
Yep.
What was it like? I mean, your first duty station was Norfolk, which is really the largest Navy base in the world. What was that? What was that like for you as a brand new spouse and your first duty station? What was it like for you to go there?
Yeah, I think because my family's always, I'm originally from the east side of Cleveland. We've always vacationed on the East Coast. My sister, I have an older sister who has lived in various, like Charleston, South Carolina, Providence. So we'd always go and visit her, but it kind of felt, it was fun. I mean, we were fresh out of college. We were a little bit older than the rest of the people that were his same rank. And we were a little bit more established because we were already, by that point, by the time I moved out here, we were married. And so the other folks kind of are still living out their college days. We were kind of past that. I didn't know what to expect. My introduction into the spouse world, my initial briefing was less than helpful. I don't know if it was just like a fire hose of information and I just didn't know what to take out of it, but I had no idea what Fleet and Family did. And the only thing that I got out of that whole briefing, which was not done by Fleet and Family, was that that's where I could get a base map. I didn't know that they could help with my resume. I didn't know that they had all these other resources for me as a spouse. And so I kind of felt lost here too, but my husband's made a lot of great friends on the ship. And so I was able to they were also became my friends. When they deployed, I got really lucky that one of them had already transitioned off the ship. And so I had some friends that were still here that weren't on that deployment.
So
Yeah.
On your second trip back to Norfolk now, you land this job with the Department of Veterans Services, and it sounds as though this job is made for you. How did you luck into this position?
So when I was working at Fleet and Family, we had a couple people from the Virginia Department of Veterans Services come to our capstone events that they could help with resources for the state, while the rest of us that worked at Fleet and Family were helping them sign off on all the paperwork that they needed to transition out. And so they brought it to my attention that, hey, this job passed legislation, we're going to post it soon. You should definitely apply. And I was like, but I don't live in Richmond. And they said, well, you might have to go to Richmond once a month for a meeting, but we're still in this telework policy kind of situation because it was right after COVID. It was in 2021. And I was like, okay, I really enjoyed my time at Fleet and Family, but I really loved that office. But I was kind of at that stance where there wasn't room. It was hard for me to keep going up the ladder career-wise because I was competing with folks that had been working for Fleet and Family for decades, or they were a veteran. So they got that veteran preference for those
Mm-hmm.
government jobs within the center. So it's kind of at a disadvantage as a contractor. So I applied on a whim. Thankfully, at the time, a lot of what's in that legislation, like licensure reciprocity, accessing child care,
Right.
spouse employment, a lot of it was stuff that I had experienced already. Um, childcare, not as much. We had our first kid at the end of 2021, so I was just heading into that experience as a military spouse, but I knew everything about spouse employment from personal experiences, but then also my time with working with Fleet and Family
Right.
and helping spouses find employment. So it's kind of just right up my alley. And I was very thankful to get the job and this amazing opportunity that has grown from it.
This position was created in 2021 legislatively. I don't know how many of our listeners really understand how veteran friendly the Commonwealth of Virginia is. It is really a goal of DVS, the governor, to get as many veterans to stay here or come to Virginia to live when they retire or they
Yep.
separate, because we have a lot of benefits for them. One of which was
Okay.
to create this position to help military spouses with, if I'm not wrong, the number one issue that they have, probably two issues actually, is childcare, and the other
Yep.
is license or reciprocity. So you have a lot of families where they're sent to a new state and their nursing license, their law degree, their accountant, their education, their certifications don't transfer, or it takes a long time. And now you're looking at 6 months that family doesn't have revenue from that position, that job. So
Yeah.
what is the number one thing that you see here in Virginia military spouses need help with the most?
I think getting a little harder, trying to reach our spouses to really understand what they need. I mean, it's always going to come down to childcare, but that's for any military family, whether they're a single service member, or they have a spouse that's able to work,
Mm-hmm.
or wants to work. The childcare is going to affect the entire fleet. Well, I guess the entire service. There's my Navy coming out. I think so. Childcare, obviously, we have all of our installations here in Virginia have extremely long wait lists. It can be from 300 families to 700. Whether you're in Hampton Roads or you're in Northern Virginia, we are making progress with the military fee assistance. But again, once that transition happens, those benefits can go away if you're not working for that military branch
Mm-hmm.
that has those. And so that's where we're kind of trying to figure out what can we do during that transition period, is what we're kind of analyzing now.
Mm-hmm.
With our partners at the Virginia Department of Education.
Mm-hmm.
Spouse employment is going to be the other one.
Right.
I think we get a lot of spouses, whether they're coming from overseas orders or new to Virginia or they're just starting out. I mean, we have literally every rank here in Virginia, including when we're starting to talk about our generals and admirals, our 1, 2, 3 stars are all here in Virginia. Also, people fresh out of boot camp. And so spouse employment's big. I think it's if we can somehow figure out and crack that nut with remote work opportunities here in Virginia, Virginia has a lot of things going for them. Whether it's our different industries that we offer here, information,
Mm-hmm.
they're not really showing up to a lot of like the Zoom events because they already got their answer. So
Well,
it's kind of like that instant gratification kind of thing. So it's been really difficult. It's difficult for everyone. We're trying to make sure that we have resource tables at different events. Like we have MilSpouse Fest coming to Norfolk. And so we at the Virginia Department of Veteran Services have a table there. And I think just trying to work with those family support centers on the installations is another great route too.
right.
Just because as spouses, as active duty spouses, we're told that's where you go. When you transfer from one installation to the next, like you're told here's your resource there. So if there's a way that we, as the Virginia Department of Veteran Services, can educate them on what services we offer, then hopefully we can kind of get more word, since that is literally listed on those service members' orders.
Well, listeners, I'm going to have a link to the Department of Veteran Services Military Spouses information page on their page about the different resources in the show notes. So I would advise everybody to go and definitely check that out. Also, Virginia has a really excellent web page for veterans, and it's the Virginia Values Veterans Program, and it is open to spouses as well. So you can log into that as a spouse. You don't need to be active duty. You don't need to be a veteran. You can be a military spouse and take advantage of the resources that you'll find there. And it's especially valuable, I think, too, because it gives you resources from all over. If you're going to PCS somewhere and you want to try to get ahead of that and find reciprocity and housing and all sorts of things in other parts of the country. But I'm going to have the link to their webpage up on in the show notes. So I want you to take a look at that. I really would caution some of our listeners. Sometimes you'll get a great answer when you pose a question on the internet. Other times you won't. It presupposes that the person that answers your question knows what they're talking about. And you can't always guarantee that. And I think you might sometimes get sent down some sort of rabbit hole or just waste your time. So please try to find some official resources like the webpage here. And then, Kayla, you want to give everybody your email address in case they have a question?
Yeah, absolutely. My email address for the program is milspouse@dvs.virginia.gov. And that's Virginia spelled all the way out.
Yep. And it's milspouse, MIL spouse, at dvs.virginia.gov. So please check out the webpage. If you don't find what you need there or you're not sure, shoot Kayla an email and she'll get back to you. There are plenty of resources out there on the installations, and we have a pretty close association with the Army Spouses Club. It used to be the Army Wives Club, but they've changed the name. Here locally, we do their tabling events. It's a great resource, and you're going to find these clubs on pretty much every installation out there. And really try to, if you're new, try to find this organization, this group on the installation, and you want to become involved with them because they'll mentor you. They'll tell you, you need this fixed in your house, you need to call here. And here's Jimmy. Tell Jimmy, General Smith's wife told to call. It's that kind of thing. So please try to connect with those groups. What do you find, or where do you see the DVS going when it comes to supporting military spouses in the future? What would you like to see happen in the next, 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I think we're going to be able to expand a lot and really get the word out. I think there's a lot of great resources that we offer regardless of sponsor status. So active duty, National Guard, Reserve, veteran, and our surviving spouses, we have resources for all of them. We do have specific teams that are tailored to that, like transitioning in that veteran and surviving spouse demographic. But I think we have a lot of great things that are currently kind of happening behind the scenes right now that I hope really comes to fruition in the next couple years, and really relying on some solid partnerships, whether it's state entities or nonprofits, to really share what we have to offer, because we have a lot of services and programs that go really unnoticed. And I think we're all headed in the right direction. It's just getting the word out.
Well, we're glad we're able to help do that. in a small way here with our podcast. And, one of the things we say to our veterans all the time is you're not alone. And I think that holds true for military spouses as well, especially when you're a new military spouse, and it can be daunting try and figure out this new life that you're thrown into.
Yep.
And just remember that you're not alone. The Kayla is out there. Department of Veteran Services is out there. The wives or the spouses clubs are there. You'll find a way. It it may seem pretty crazy at first, but you're not alone. And I just can't even imagine what it must have been like for you to be your first duty station, Norfolk. Oh my gosh! Wow. Well,
It wasn't bad. The deployment was interesting, but it's nowhere near this current deployment. So
yeah. Wow. Well, listen, I can't thank you enough for joining us today and really getting the word out on these great resources that DVS has available for everybody. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, listeners, I'll have that webpage link in the show notes. I want to make sure everybody goes to that. We will have a new episode next Monday morning at 0500. You can find us on all the major podcast platforms. We're on YouTube and Reese Across America Radio. So until then, thanks for listening.
The Welcome Home podcast is brought to you by Willing Warriors, a nonprofit organization serving active duty service members and veterans since 2012. To learn more, please visit our webpage at willingwarriors.org.